It's Easter, and don't you wonder what Jesus would say about the LGBTQ plus community? The subreddit on TransChristianity on Reddit was discussed what Jesus would say about the LGBTQ plus community. One user shared a post asking, quote, "Would Jesus want us to deny ourselves of our dysphoria? Matthew 6:24, end quote. The post asked what Jesus would say if he were alive in modern times. The user said, quote, "I don't believe Jesus would harp on this as a sin. He didn't focus too much on gender or gender roles," end quote. The user also tried to understand the true meaning of Matthew 6:24. As translated in the New International Version of the Bible, quote, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money," end quote. The Reddit user asks if this means that God believes the righteous thing to do is to deny ourselves of the desire to transition and commit to him instead. The account user believes it is possible to commit to God even though the person is transitioned. Rather, the commitment can be better as the person's mental health and well-being are higher. Other Reddit users chimed into this question with their own opinions and views. One saying, quote, "Do not worry about the outside of the cup. It is what is on the inside that brings nourishment or death," end quote. Another user said, quote, "Transitioning is an act of God because it's an act of creation. If Jesus the prophet lived today, he would stand on the side of trans people because he stands on the side of the oppressed. He would take joy in your transition," end quote. And we're on the eve of Easter weekend, and this is Passover, yes, and this is a very interesting take on it that I'm glad that we're doing. Okay, I'm going to throw it back to you. What do you think about this? Your turn.
I love the quote when they said that transition is what did it say? Transition is an act of creation. Yeah. I love that because I know myself. I transitioned when I was 18 years old. And I believe that
6 years ago?
Yes, that black don't crack. 48. 48. But I never had an issue or felt any type of way, later on. Now, when I was younger, I did feel some type of way because of the teachings of the church and all of that. But I just believe that God is concerned about the inside and what you do. That's all.
I actually, because I didn't quite read the story in the beginning, I actually looked up not only this verse.
In the beginning?
Well, not that far back. But on a previous episode, I have quoted Matthew 6:5 against public prayer. I actually read the whole chapter 6, and quite frankly, and I'm going to, if I have this wrong, I'm going to rely on the church lady to correct me.
Oh, not you, the church lady.
Oh, I'm the church lady now.
But when I read this, it's literally about it's about staying humble and avoiding hypocrisy and addressing what one's priority should be. It's really that simple. It's like you don't have to be a holier than thou, high and mighty. It's like, if you really want the goodie, you keep quiet.
Well, the problem I'm having with all of this, regardless of who is talking, is that in this day and age, between politics and the Christian extreme evangelistic mindset, people are manipulating the Bible left and right. They're using the 4 or 5 words that they want that benefits them. Mm-hmm. They're twisting it subtly, and they're not reading the whole quote. And they're not going through the whole meaning of that passage, which is important. But even as a sometimes devout Christian, Catholic, Roman Catholic, I've learned in all these years that I've been around, and as you remind me, I am older. Thank you. I'm made in the image of God. That's it. Mm. And if God made me who I am, how could that be wrong? Whether it be I love a man or I love a woman. So, I brought this forth to my family, and I have a lot of very religious people in my family, and I was blessed to have a Monsignor in my family. And I just am amazed that they shut up when I say that. Because they realize that that's what the Bible is about. I am created by God in his image. That's it. So how can I be anything less than wonderful?
And
And
later
that's
on,
not my ego speaking, okay?
and later on, they talk about, and I'm going to need your help with this.
Oh, don't do that.
No. It's not the gospel itself, but it's in one of the letters to the early Christians. They talk about there is no slave or free, there is no man or woman. And again, I'm grossly misquoting it, but you know, it's as you said, they
twist.
they pick out thou shalt not sleep with a man as with another man, and then go out to their local seafood restaurant for shrimp and clams,
Right.
which is also prohibited.
Well, there's an interesting, and I don't mean to digress, but there is an interesting documentary that's coming out, and it's running the circuit of all the different movie shows. I mean, at the celebrations, the festivals,
yeah.
where it discusses the point at which the Bible picked out the word homosexual or created the word homosexual and how it treated it. And there is now this line of thought amongst a certain group of people, intellectuals and people who study the Bible, saying that the word homosexual should not have been defined the way it was, because if you go back to that particular moment in time when it was written, that word could have been anything under the moon. It could have been a man, it could be a woman, it could have been anything. So, you know, and I think that's important, because I think with the current Pope, he is trying to figure out how to desensitize the word, depoliticize the word homosexual and open it up to the church itself. But we have to go through thousands of years of bigotry and thought processes that define us and them, however you want to define it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, you know, for a show as great as this, you know, in the LGBT community, I mean, here we are talking about religion and spirituality like we've never discussed before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's really helpful to how we present ourselves in the world.
Absolutely.
I'm preaching a lot today.
Yeah,
Thank
preach
you.
on.
For you.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.